The Republic of Congo heads to the polls next Wednesday. Incumbent President Felix Tshisekedi is hoping to be re-elected in what some believe is an important election. The DRC has over the years been marred by violence and political instability, and the country continues to battle the M12 rebels. Civil groups and human rights analysts have warned of electoral violence which might destabilize and threaten a free and fair vote. Let's discuss this now with independent Africa analyst Jean Bwasa. Jean, thank you for making time for us this morning. How significant are these elections for the DRC?
Thank you very much, Clement. And the significance of these elections in DRC, I would like to start this analysis by, first of all, putting into perspective what has been going on in the DRC and quoting Sol Plaatje, Native Life in South Africa, where he says, waking on Friday morning, June 20, 1913, the South African native found himself not actually a slave, but a pariah in the land of his birth. Quoted from Moody, Sol Plaatje. And this is again the same with the Congolese people that are pariah and slaves, modern slaves in their own country. So when people are talking about an electoral process, but is there really an electoral process in the DRC when we are aware that there are more than 3 or 4 territories in the Congo that will not be able to cast their vote? Those citizens, like in 2018, but in 2018 we only had 3 cities that were deprived of the votes, Yumbi, Butembo, and Beni. But today we have a whole portion of Congo where Congolese are not going to vote. That's one. 2, we have so much violence that are preceding these so-called elections that are being done by an expert of the electoral process. It is just a parody. So it is an artistic blur, while some citizens don't even have a voter card, or if they have a voter card, nobody can read actually what is written on the voter card. And the electoral expert, Denis Kadima, says that a person can just go there and vote with his finger. And we know with his finger on the machine when 80% of the country does not have electricity.
Yeah.
So this is a parody of an electoral process.
So in about 63 years of independence, the Democratic Republic of Congo, in fact, has seen, has only had one peaceful transition of power, if I'm not mistaken. That was after that election in 2019, the win by Felix Tshisekedi. He's now seeking this second 5-year term. Does he stand a chance?
Well, I would say that if I remember correctly, it would stand a chance because the people are so naive that they would go and vote for a T-shirt, they would go and vote for a $10 that they do not offer them as a salary. It is about time that as Congolese people, they awake themselves, they rise and they change. The only possible way that we can have a transitional government in that country, it's not through an electoral process, but it's through a dialogue that will call all the stakeholders, political, civil society, intellectuals, to sit on the table and see what is at stake. Because Congo has a big role to play, a pivotal role to play in Africa. And if today Congo is not able to stand, then the entire African continent is doomed.
Yeah. I mean, how has he dealt with the persisting insecurity? Because I would imagine a peaceful DRC is a priority for most Congolese. Many of them have witnessed the widespread violence that's been perpetrated by the multiple armed groups for varying motives.
Well, I think what he has done is basically to cling to power by bringing on board the M23, which alternatively installed in the capital Kinshasa and negotiating with them so that at the end of his mandate, of his term, the M23 have actually seized some portion of the country. Bunagana has been now in the hand of the M23 for the past 2 years almost, and it has brought on board the Eastern community. And if we understand, if we were to go back in terms of this analysis, we would understand that himself, Tshisekedi, and Vital Kamerhe brought their power by being in Kenya, in Nairobi, through a negotiation and building what they call the cash. And after that, we heard that the elections were never proclaimed he was never proclaimed as a president, but it was through a deal. And it is so, in fact, that you can say that with boldness, because the former chairperson of the electoral process has actually started a new rebellion, still from the same Nairobi, saying that Mr. Tshisekedi must vacate the power. So we are saying as if it is a gameplay that is playing with the Congolese people rather than putting across a free and fair elections. We know that there has been no census since 1984. And before the election, in any country would have a census, would have the voters to be registered. But there's no list. As we speak, in 3 days' time, we are saying on Wednesday, some of the voters don't even have the voter card. Some of the offices, they don't have the list of those that are going to vote or those that are going to be voting. So how can we say that this is an electoral process? He has not brought any peace in the eastern side of the country. While one of his promises before he became president, he said that if he is elected president, he will go and stay in the eastern side of the Congo so that he could bring peace. Ever since that time, nothing has been done. False promises.
And speaking of free and fair elections, I mean, already as you indicate, there are concerns around some irregularities in the registration process and the poor quality of voter cards. What does that mean then for the credibility of the elections that have not even begun? And what are some of the opposition candidates saying about these concerns?
Well, I have a tendency to say something that even if we were to speak about the opposition candidates, they are not opposition candidates because they are all part of the system, a neo-colonial system that is trying to maintain Congo in this bondage of slavery. So what is important here, the elections, if they happen, and there are 3 scenarios that might occur here. We need to unpack this. The first scenario that might occur is that he goes to the election in the current situation where these would be the worst elections since 1965, which were the best elections Congo has ever realized. So he would push himself like Coriolanus of Shakespeare, who knew that he would fail, but he would go to the election. The second possibility is that on the eve of the 20th, they will postpone the elections by either Kadima himself or the Constitutional Court, which is a constitutional court that is in the hands of Mr. Tshisekedi. And the third would be chaos. Chaos because the people of the Congolese people have had enough. And it is about time that we got the change, like in many African countries, so that the Congolese will be able to change the paradigm for their lives. We must know that the social life of a Congolese is at the ransom of these politicians.
Well, thank you for making time for us. Independent Africa analyst Jean Bwasa.